There has always been a white man's party in the United States. For most of the history of the United States, that white man's party has been the Democratic Party. But then in the 60s, the parties switched places, but there was still a white man's party and another party that claimed that it was more inclusive. This duopoly system is a political arrangement that balances itself out and in which the two parts react to each other. This arrangement makes promises to its constituencies, and it makes those promises in order to keep them voting for the representatives of the rich people who control both of those parties. The Democratic duopoly arrangement with black people is that it will provide them with some representation and with, they make a promise of providing a protection from the forces of white racism. That has never come through. They've never followed through on that promise of protection for black lives, and certainly not of protection of black lives from the police. And that would be a contradiction in terms anyway, because the police job is to contain and suppress and keep the black population down. This is why we have a Black Lives Matter movement, because they have violated the implicit arrangement of the duopoly system. That Black Lives Matter movement, and I use that term to describe the whole umbrella of activity that's going on, that movement is largely outside of the Democratic Party, although the Democratic Party has tried mightily to absorb that movement and has had some success. But the Democrats have fulfilled much of their part of the bargain in terms of black representation. Two things were promised: protection. They didn't fulfill that bargain. But in terms of representation, they have in large measure. But this representation has benefited mostly the black misleadership class, which owes its existence to the Democratic Party, or feels that it does. For that reason, this black misleadership class is the last part of the duopoly that will budge from this arrangement. That's why much of the Democratic Party is in revolt against the rich men who control the party, but the black political class remains the most loyal element in that duopoly situation. Their allegiance is to the party that has nurtured their rise in social and economic status. Their allegiance is not to the larger black community, and that will not change. The black rank and file, I'm talking about just average black folks, is also largely sticking with Hillary Clinton, because the duopoly system is a trap, and we have to look at it as a trap. If there are just two parties, and one of those parties is the party of white supremacy, then white people have at least two choices. They can be in the party of white supremacy, or they can be in the more inclusive party. But black people feel that they have no choice at all under this duopoly system. No choice but to support the party that is more inclusive. Nobody is more entrapped by the duopoly political system than black people are. So any crisis in that duopoly system is good news for us. The two-party arrangement was that the white man's party, which is for the Republicans, would defend the privileges and the social status of white people. And white people actually assumed that they would get good jobs as part of that deal as well. It was implicit, they thought, in the contract. But the global capitalist order has destroyed the economic side of that deal that white folks thought they had with the duopoly party, or with the white man's party. And these white people have suffered what they consider to be the ultimate insult by having to endure and salute and sing "Hail to the Chief" to a black man, Barack Obama. And for them, that was the last straw. Now, we, of course, see Barack Obama in an entirely different light at the Black is Back Coalition. Now, we, of course, see Barack Obama in an entirely different light at the Black is Back Coalition. But for these white supremacists, having to sing "Hail to the Chief" to a black man was just more than they could bear. It's been 8 years of hell for a white supremacist. And they blame that on the white man's party. They think that their contract with that party has been violated. How could you put us through this? That's the way they feel. This accounts for the viciousness and virulence of their opposition. Donald Trump sensed that, since he is a racist white man himself. He's in touch with those vibes. And so that's why he launched this campaign to capitalize on the white sense of betrayal. And that is the immediate factor in the destabilization of the Republican side of the duopoly. The Republican Party has the most acute problem, and it is headed for a breakup. We don't know where the pieces are going to fall, but it is in the process of breaking up. But we have to see the duopoly as kind of like a binary star system, the two stars. The two stars orbit around each other, and any disruption in that orbit affects both of them. You can't see them as just being separate entities. They interact together. And so the Democratic half of that duopoly is also in trouble. But it's even worse than that, in terms of worse than that for them. The logic of the duopoly system dictates that the real purpose of your vote, that is, you're part of the inclusive half of the duopoly system, and the logic of your vote is to defeat the white man's party. It is to defeat the Republicans, and that is why you're a Democrat. You're not a Democrat because they have a list of principles like Chairman Yesha Taylor outlined for the Black is Back Coalition. You are part of the Democratic Party because you want to defeat the other part of the duopoly, the white man's party. And by that kind of logic, what is best for the Democratic Party is what is best for you. That is the operative methodology. And this is what sets black people up for the trap that is within the trap. It is a kind of double trap. The duopoly system is a trap in itself, but for black people, there is another trap within the trap. Because if the purpose of voting is to defeat the Republicans, then black people should therefore give their votes to the Democrat who has the money and who has the support from enough white people to win the general election. Whether that candidate is the one that is closest to your political thinking or not. And that's why there is so little analysis of what Hillary Clinton's position is, or Bernie Sanders' position is, or what the Black is Back Coalition's position is, or what anybody's position is, because positions are not important in this kind of logic. In this double trap, the only question is who can beat Donald Trump, or who can beat whoever is put forward by the white man's party. That's what the black misleadership class calls strategic voting. If you follow the logic of the duopoly and you fall into the double trap, instead of saying that you have been entrapped, they say, no, we are voting strategically. And strategically always means voting for whatever the strongest, the most moneyed, the most well-connected, and usually that means the most right-wing Democrat is who comes up on the menu. The duopoly system itself mitigates against independent black politics on the electoral level. It's not some fault among our people. It's the system that we have to operate in, or that has been imposed on us, that says you will have no independent politics, because that would violate the logic of the duopoly. It means that you are abandoning the fight against the white man's party because you are not collaborating fully and wholeheartedly and entirely with the Democratic Party.